All right, so we are going to pick up a little bit before where we left off in class today. And I'm making this video today so we will finish up the translation up to the bottom of 1.7 so that tomorrow we don't have to worry about going through the translation as much. We'll just go over some questions you may have from this video and then we can really focus on review for your test on Wednesday. But we're not actually going to pick up right where we left off. I want to go back a little bit to answer Anna's question from today about what is up with all of these clauses in this sentence before where we left off. So, going back up a little bit to, well, the sentence starts all the way up here at ubi. So, when the Helvetians have been made more certain about his, meaning Caesar's, arrival, they send the most noble ambassadors or legates of the whole state, the most noble of the whole state, ambassadors, to him. In which legion, or of which legates, Namius and Veracletus were holding the first rank, or the principal place. They are the most noble of the noble legates. These most noble legates, the nobilissimos legatos, qui. So that qui right there is actually the antecedent of this qui. Oh no, don't move the schema. There we go. The antecedent of that qui are the legatos from up here on the line above. So the legates who would say, okay, notice how that is imperfect subjunctive. We'll come back to what type of clause that is in a second. Who would say that it was in their minds without any evil to make a journey through the province because they had no other way. They had no other journey. And who would say that they would ask that, oh my gosh, enough clauses, right? Who would say that they would ask that it be allowed for them to do this by his willingness, or with his own, by his own will. So we got a bunch of clauses in there. Let's talk about what types we have. If we are starting with red, right? The red clause starts at qui, and it goes all the way to the end of the sentence. This qui is governing dequerent. It is also, actually it's only governing dequerent. Rogare and esse both go off of dequerent. They say that it was, they say that they would ask. Because this is a third person plural imperfect active subjunctive, it starts with a relative pronoun, but we have a subjunctive thrown in that clause. Therefore, the only type of clause that we know that starts with a relative pronoun and includes a subjunctive verb is a relative clause characteristic. They were the type of legates who would say that it was in their minds. Okay. Then we got the purple clause. Purple clause starts with city, and it goes down to nullum down here. And this is the easier clause to see because we have esse. They're the type of legates who would say that it was in their minds. So that's an indirect statement. Sweet. Then, I kind of need an et here. It might help you to have the et there. We have our green clause. It starts at rogare. It goes down to the end of the sentence. Rogare, again, just like esse, it's being governed by dequerent. They say that it was in their minds. They say that they would ask. So, another indirect statement. And they say that they would ask that it be allowed for them to do this by his own will. So we've got an ut clause, which is our orange one, going from ut to lekeat. And with an ut clause, you've got to look for a small word. We don't have a small word, so it's not result. Then we go back to our main verb of this ut clause, which would be rogare. Is rogare a head verb? Yes, it is a head verb. Therefore, this ut is an indirect command. If it was not a head verb, then you would have a purpose clause. All right? So we got the relative clause of characteristic that's governing everything, two indirect statements going off of your relative clause of characteristic, and an indirect command within your second indirect statement. Whew. All right. Caesar, because he was holding in his memory that, oh, got another indirect statement right here. Notice what has been ellipsed, by the way. When Katie was translating today, I didn't mention that, but you do need these essays with all of these participles, otherwise it would just be a participle. But it's not, it's an infinitive going within this indirect statement. So he was holding in his memory that Lucius Cassius, the consul, has been killed and that his army, meaning Cassius's army, has been beaten down by the Helvetians, and that his army, again, executum is still your subject, that the army has been sent under the yoke. So Caesar remembers that Cassius was killed and that Cassius's army was humiliated by the Helvetians. And he was thinking, that's your putabat, right? He was thinking that it must not be approved. Check it out. We've got an ND thrown in there. I should have mentioned this in class today, but I didn't. If we have an ND, it's either a gerund or a gerundive. In this case, notice how we don't have a noun buddy that it's going with. This is a gerund of a certain type. Notice how it comes with a form of essay. We have to supply that essay. It's within your indirect statement. Right? He was thinking that it must not be allowed. That would be a gerundive of, well, kind of purpose, but you may better know this as the passive periphrastic. It must. Whenever you have a gerund plus a form of to be, you have your passive periphrastic. He was thinking that it must not be conceded, must not be allowed. And, go to your main verb, existimabat. And he was thinking that men, homines, with an enemy mind, like men with an enemy mind, with the opportunity to make a journey through the province having been given, all of that is kind of going together with your ablative absolute, right? With the opportunity having been given to make a journey through their province, that these men of an enemy mind would the video might have just cut out by accident for a second. I was saying, he was thinking that the men of a hostile mind or with an enemy mind would not refrain, temptatoros esse, notice, the future infinitive. They would not keep from injury and evil. So, he's saying, if we give them the chance to make a journey through our province, these people with a hostile mind, they will not be able to keep themselves from injury and evil. However, so that a spatium literally means space. It often refers to time though, so like a span of time. However, so that a span of time would be able, Poset, would be able to intercede, or so that a span of time would be able to pass, while the soldiers, close, whom he had ordered, would come together. Okay, so that. However, so that a span of time would be able to pass, while the soldiers whom he had ordered would come together. Remember how he ordered all the soldiers to get over to the farthest reaches of Gaul? Well, they haven't gotten there yet, because the farthest reaches of Gaul are pretty far away. So he's saying, so that we can have a little bit more time, so that my soldiers can show up, whom I have ordered already. He responds to the legates, respondet legatis. He responds to the legates that say, he himself, assumptorum esse, will assume or will take diem, the day. He responds that he will take the day ad deliberandum for the purpose of deliberating. Here you have a gerundive of purpose. You've got an ad plus a gerundive. So he responds to the legates that he himself will take the day for the purpose of deliberating. If they want quid, anything, quid is not what? How did I know that quid is not what? Because it comes after C. After C, nisi, num, and ne, Ali takes a holiday. Ali quid. So if they should want anything, they should return ad id aprilis, to the Ides of April. The Ides of April, you may know the Ides of March as March 15th. The Ides actually change the day depending on what month it is, and in April it's not the 15th but the 13th. So remember, the Helvetians on, March 28th, decide that they're going to go across the bridge in Geneva. Between then and very early April, Caesar hurries himself over to Geneva so that he can tell these legates who the Helvetians send to him, oh, I will take the day to deliberate whether I will let you through. If you want anything, come back on April 13th. I'll tell you then. But notice how he's not actually taking the day to decide He's taking the day so that his soldiers whom he ordered can show up. He's not decided. He's already decided in his mind that no, it should not be allowed. And in fact, we have that with concedendum est, or esse, right up here, right? He thinks that it must not be allowed because they defeated Cassius so badly and put his army under the yoke and killed Cassius himself. He's already made up his decision. He's not going to let the Helvetians pass. But he needs a little bit more time for his soldiers to show up. So he says, I'll take a day to deliberate. And then come back on April 13th and we'll figure it out then. And that's where we end book 1, at least for now. We will come back to this. Please make sure you make note of any questions that we just went through so that we can power through them in class tomorrow. But we'll spend most of the time in class tomorrow reviewing for your test. All right. Have a great night.